out and about in the wonderful city of York, down the wonderful street of Warmgate actually today, and I'm with Anya and Graham from Letters. Now you two have got a really, really inspirational story, let's be honest, about how you got involved in this business and where it is. So Anya, how did it all start for you?
Well, about 15 years ago when I came to York, I had a young family and I was looking for a small part-time job to keep me going with young kids at home, and had the opportunity to be the bookkeeper and accountant for the previous owner, for the current owner of Letters. Started doing that and did that part-time for him for 3 years, during which time he made plans to retire, and at the end of the 3 years offered me the chance to buy the business. So took that opportunity grabbed it with both hands, and so 12 years ago I bought the business. At the time it was just a lettings business, employed 6 staff and looked after about 200 properties in York. Over the last 12 years of growing it, we now have 13 staff on board, and we've branched out to cover holiday lets, block management, and also look after almshouses. And a couple of years ago, Graham came on board as the company director, and we just seem to be growing from strength to strength.
Right, so you're the company director, Graham, yeah?
Yes, very, very grand title.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, basically I'm the communications director for Letters. And my main role at the moment is getting the IT in place, getting everything up and running, so that the growth that's happened basically in the analogue age, really before the internet took over the estate agency and lettings business, so that we can really make the most of that, because as Anya said, the business has expanded tremendously. But we're one of the best kept secrets in York. We're the biggest independent lettings agent in York.
Wow.
And people just don't know about it, so we're really working now to develop things like this podcast, get our social media out there, and get known not just for being a lettings agent, but also the block management, being there to help you if you've got problems with the big boys in the industry, that you've got a local friend who can help and support you.
Well, look, you're not going to be the best kept secret anymore, right? Let's be honest. So, Anya, how have things changed over that time then in the marketplace for you?
It's changed tremendously. My background's law, and that's helped me a lot, because one of the biggest changes has been compliance. And I think this is what worries a lot of landlords and property owners in general out there. You open the newspapers, you look online, and it's all about landlords and issues and evictions and being sued. And effectively, what we do now is we take that worry away from the owners. That's what we're here for. No matter at the end of the day, it is a business, but our sole focus is on the property that somebody has and how best to look after it for them, be it looking at health and safety, fire, council tax for them, the tenants that are going in. It's all these sorts of issues that day to day, if you're a landlord, you don't want to look after. Or if it's a block of flats, the fire safety, the health and safety on the stairs and things like that. And that's the sort of areas that our message, as Graham said, we need to get out there more and more, is that that's what we do, that's our bread and butter, and that's what we take the worry away, because as an independent, our sole focus is on the client. We don't have external pressures of a corporate head office. We don't have targets that somebody in Newcastle or Birmingham is giving to us. And so we are looking after, we are based in York, we live in York, our staff are from York, and all our properties are in York, and that's the message we want to
It sounds to me it's all about relationship with your clients then.
Yes, it is. And the nice thing is that, when I bought the business, we still have 2 members of staff with me who were there when I bought the business 12 years ago. Most of the other staff have been with us at least 3, 4, 5 years. We talk of ourselves as a family, and we are about keeping and building relationships with our clients. Many landlords have been with us a long time, and what we're finding as we've expanded is that, as everyone knows, York is a small place, that we get referrals through word of mouth. Graham said we're working on our marketing, but if we've managed to grow this much without doing the marketing, through trustees, through people who know other people, through referrals, not in a formal way but in a recommendation, then it's about building on these relationships even more.
But if you've become this successful with the best kept secrets, what's going to happen when the secret's out? Because it's out of the bag, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we do, as Annie says, people have been here for a long time, and as somebody who's relatively new to the industry, you don't realise how complex it is to actually own and run a property, because it looks dead easy, and if nothing goes wrong, it probably is. But the legislation there is so punitive now for landlords that getting things wrong can be a very expensive mistake, and particularly you just don't want the stress of it. But as I say, my background, I was in the RAF for 16 years, and a lot of that was spent in legal or in estates, looking after housing estates for the military. And it is remarkable how many of those sort of bits of skill and knowledge come in.
Those transferable skills.
Very, very much, because that's all about people as well. Because in the end, everything we let is somebody's home.
Yeah.
And it's owned by somebody for whom it might be part of their pension plan. It's often an accidental acquisition because somebody's died, and they're looking to generate revenue from a house that they couldn't sell at any point in time. So you've really got to handhold people through this. It's not all about big corporate investors. It's very much about individuals, both as the landlords and also as the tenants.
I think, Graham, you picked up on that point really, because people do become what I call accidental landlords. They get a property left for them, or they've watched something like Homes Under the Hammer, okay, and makes so easy, doesn't it? You get this thing, you put a bit of money in, and the pounds come rolling in. I guess it's not as simple as that. There's more to it, isn't there?
There's definitely a lot more to it, and it's part of it is about telling landlords of what needs to be done, but the bigger part of it is actually also listening to the landlords' worries and concerns, and listening to them when they do think that they can look after themselves. And we do have a wide variety of landlords, from those who successfully manage their properties day to day but only use us to find tenants, and they're the ones who are willing to put in their own time and effort and money into managing it correctly. But we do, the vast majority of our landlords, ones who say, you've listened to us, we now want you to manage it, hand it over to us, and let the staff take the worry, and take the worry and take all the work on board. Because of that, we do invest a lot in training. For our staff, we have a legal team come in at least once a year and sit down with us, because, as I said at the beginning, most of this is about compliance, about covering health and safety. An example is every property has to have a Legionnaire's risk assessment, and when I speak to most landlords, they've never even heard of that. But it is the law. Yes, the risk is very, very small, but for the sake of doing something relatively simple, not very often, then that should alleviate the concern and have everything in place. And it's about keeping up to date and as I say, taking that worry away from the landlords, so that we're peace of mind for them. And because we're peace of mind for the landlords, we're also peace of mind for the tenants. We, again, talking about investing in infrastructure, we've now got an online reporting system so that tenants can report any issues they have with the property, and the online reporting system takes them through it. Example of something like a faulty boiler. Instead of just us receiving an email saying my boiler isn't working, it talks them through with workflow as to what you make of your boiler. Have you checked the fuse board? Have you done this? Have you done that? If you can give us the make and the model, it means that the contractor can go out quickly. Streamlining is a combination of both the IT infrastructure that we can put in place, but also having the right staff on the end of the phone or face-to-face when people come into the office, so that we can ask the right questions, listen to the answers, and then get the right solution in place.
So again, what you're talking about there is, you're talking about the relationship, you're talking about the service, you're talking about everything that's happening that people don't necessarily want to know about behind the scenes, but it's there. It's giving that peace of mind.
Yeah.
And one of the other things we're finding, legislation's changing a lot. People have heard about the tenants fee ban, which has just come in, and that's been quite interesting for us, because obviously we did charge tenants fees before it came in, but for us, fortunately, we charged basically to cover our costs. We didn't see charging the tenants as being a big revenue stream. So while it's been a bit painful to have to look at different ways of keeping the business running, keeping the money coming in, because we're very different to the big London agencies and a lot of the biggest practices which charge you a lot for everything you do, the tenants fee ban has been a bit of a pain, but not a major one, because we always looked at how do we give value, not just to the landlords, but also to the tenants. So we didn't just charge them for coming in and breathing the same air as some of our staff, which seemed to be the case. I've got a son down in London, and what he had to go through for renting property down there bears no resemblance to what it's like in York.
And am I right in saying there's also, is there a pets fee or something now? Is that changed in legislation? Or what?
This is where you sometimes have people who are making decisions down in Westminster, or the civil servants that draft the legislation, not thinking things through, or the campaigners who've campaigned for it in the first place. And the idea was in the past that we would charge an additional deposit bond for anyone coming with a pet. Now that stayed as the tenant's money, but they would lodge effectively an extra couple of £100 with us, so that if there was additional damage when they left the property that we would have, that was caused by the pet, say chewing of carpets or any flea treatment that was needed or anything like that, then we could have this extra pot of money that we could legitimately use in agreement with them to help pay for the damage. Now the level of bond that we can take from tenants has been capped at 5 weeks. And that's irrespective of whether it's one person in a studio, 5 people in a house, whether they've got pets or not. 5 weeks rent is the maximum we can take as a bond or a security deposit. So now there isn't the facility to take that as a pet. What agents are starting to do is then say, here there are 2 levels of rent. So you pay £700 a month if it's you and your husband. However, if you bring along a Labrador dog, you'll pay £725 a month. At the end of the day, what that is, we genuinely think, whilst that might be the way the industry is going, it's more unfair on the tenant. The tenant has to pay the extra rent, which they'll never get back. They would happily have paid an extra bond, but legally we can't ask for it. And if we take it, we're breaking the law. So it's sometimes that famous saying of the law is an ass, and sometimes it is proved to be the case. And the legislation that Graham's talked about is so new. It's the 1st of June it came in. I think everyone is just taking a seat back. We have everything in place legally we should have. We've changed all our policies and procedures. We've changed our fee structure. It's now a case of sitting back and waiting and just letting the dust settle. There will be cases that will come in, and we won't be one of them. So it's just a case of waiting and seeing. But this tenant fee ban will have ripples that we will see for probably a few months or years to come.
Okay. So, Anya, if there's somebody out there that's a landlord and they want to come and have a chat with you, what's the process? How does it work? So let's say, here I am, I've just suddenly been left the property, don't know what the hell to do with it. Do I just come and have a good chat and a cappuccino moment with you?
You do. You can do that. If you popped into the office, then generally one of the staff in the lettings department would have an initial chat with you. If Graham and I were in the office, we would come down and also have a chat with you. If we weren't, then you would get, they would ask for your details and we would give you a call. The best thing always is for us to physically come out to the property if you have it, if you've purchased it or you've been left it, because that gives us a chance to both look at the property and to speak to you. If it's at a stage where the property hasn't been purchased yet, we are quite happy to be sent details via any of the portals and we'll give you rough estimates. But again, it's best to see the actual bricks and mortar. And we come out whenever you want, be it a Sunday afternoon or a Friday morning, sit down, talk with you, again, listen to what you want out of that property. Some people are looking for, they just literally want it off their hands. Other people are talking about maximising revenue. We then give advice on what we think and then talk about our services, because there's a variety of different services we can offer depending on whether you want to be hands-on or hands-off, and then just simply take it from there. The forms and the legal stuff and all that comes afterwards. But at the beginning it's just about helping you decide what you want to get out of it and who you want to be staying in it.
Okay, now that, sorry, yes, Graham?
If I can add to that, for somebody who's an accidental landlord or somebody who's just new to the game, having Anya tell them all the things that are involved is an absolute eye-opener.
Can you, yes.
Because it is difficult, it is complex, and we're talking a bit about the Homes Under the Hammer TV programme. We watch that occasionally. The one that I really enjoy watching is Tenants from Hell, which Anya sits and shouts at the screen at the various letting agents and landlords who have not done things, that means they are absolutely stuck with these tenants from hell and can do absolutely nothing about it. So it's quite interesting to watch her as a spectator sport, watching that TV
Well,
programme.
that leads me on to my sort of next question then, because you've got the landlord, but then here am I looking to find a property to rent. Okay, so how does that work? Do I come in and do you... I don't want to use the word interview because it sounds really formal, but there must be discussion around that because you're trying to match the landlord to what the tenant wants and vice versa.
Yeah, again, the brilliant staff that we have do all this. There's the vast majority of tenants nowadays look online because it's there, it's at their beck and call, it's on their phone 24/7. There's our website and they're the main property portals, and we're on all the main property portals as well. So it's a case of a click of a button and they send an inquiry through. Yes, the lovely thing about having a city centre office is that people still do pop in the door and say, I'm looking to rent in the city centre, I'm looking at this. We ask a variety of questions basically to help narrow their search and also to help them see what they're looking for so that it's not a wasted journey. So we'll ask the budget, what area they're looking in. If they're looking for a particular property, then we would arrange a viewing with them. We do some verbal checks beforehand so that it's not a case of a family of 6 looking to rent a 2-bedroom property, but it's also not somebody looking to rent a house which is either in the wrong part of town or they've got a temporary job. We show them around the property and then the process starts from that point in, and it's a case of there are so many checks that we have to do nowadays. Some of it is for the landlord's safety and security, so it's references to check that the tenants are earning what they say they're earning, because whilst tenants will sometimes say, well actually I'm only wanting to rent, I'm not wanting to buy, it's reminding them in the nicest possible way they're entering into a legal document, legal contract that is actually quite rightly quite difficult for both the landlord and the tenant to get out of in the initial stages. So it's got to be taken seriously, it's got to be taken correctly, and everything's got to be checked. We also have legislation, as we keep talking about. We have to, under the Immigration Act 2014, check that anybody moving into a property has the right to be in the UK. For whatever you think of the legislation, we're effectively almost like a customs officer, and we're checking that person has the right to be in the UK, and we have to do that for every adult in the property on behalf of the landlord. So there's all these checks that take place. Fortunately, again, going back to the streamlining of processes and the IT infrastructure, more and more of these things we're being able to do online. What's called the right to rent check we have to do face to face. We have to physically see someone's passport and see them sitting there and check that they match. But most other things are moving on to the electronic signature process. We send out so many documents to the tenant, again following legislation and best practice. They get copies of the gas safety certificate, they get copies of the energy performance certificate, they get a government document called How to Rent, they get a copy of the tenancy agreement, and then on the day that they move in, they've paid the rent, they've signed the document, and we hand over the keys, and it's really as straightforward as that. It sounds a lot, but again, what we do, it's a bit akin to that analogy of the swan or the duck on the lake. What the landlord or the tenant should see is just the top bit, and what we do is all the legs
all
going
the bits
madly underneath. Yes.
Yeah, like you say, you just take the hassle out of everything, really, don't you? Now, we're going to be talking in future podcasts, because not only do you look at this sector, you look at holiday cottages and all kinds of things. So we're going to be talking about things like that later as well. So tell me just briefly what other sectors you look after.
So, as I say, when I bought the business 12 years ago, it was predominantly lettings. Over the last 14 years, we've moved out and expanded into, we have a holiday lets department that is based solely in the centre of York, so we look after quite a lot of properties all within the city centre. We've got block management, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, is looking after all the communal areas in a block of flats. And people may say, well, York doesn't have very many blocks of flats. But even if you were to walk down somewhere like Gillygate and you have to go into a front door in the street to get to your flat, that whole area between going in the front door and getting to your flat is governed by separate legislation and separate health and safety requirements. We look after them. And then the third one is a little bit unusual, called almshouses. And again, I can expand on what almshouses are, but they're historic social housing going back to Quaker times, in fact pre-Quaker times in York. And we look after these on behalf of charities in York. Again, all of them together, it's all property management, but they're different areas, all within York.
Well, look forward to talking to you about them in future podcasts, Graham.
And one of the nice things about the almshouses is we get to go to some lovely Christmas parties and Christmas lunches with the occupants and the tenants. So it really is, it's part of the family business, and we all go to the carol services, go have some bits of mince pies. So it's lovely to have that relationship way beyond, have you got this sign in place?
Yeah.
What's your health and safety regulations? Have the fire checks been done? So it really is a fantastic environment to work.
I've just got this picture of you turning up there, and the biscuit tin comes out, the cakes are in, the mince pies.
Yeah, it's not great for the diet.
No. Yeah, no, I can imagine. So look, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can pop into our office, which is 11 Walmgate, just at the Fossgate end of Walmgate, for those that aren't sure which end that is. You can call us, and it's 01904 655 200, and the best email address for everybody is info@letterslimited.uk.
Yeah, that's lettersltd.uk.
Brilliant. Okay, look, thanks for joining us today on this podcast. I look forward to talking to you about all the other things you do over a few weeks.